Welcome viewers. Let us get into the discussion on the thallus organization and reproduction as we see in algae. But before seeing the actual topic, we will first have an overview of what algae are. Algae are chlorophyll-bearing autotrophic thallophytes bounded by cell walls. They are representing the most diverse kingdom in the form and structure consisting of both prokaryotic and eukaryotic types. The plant body is always a thallus, which means that they are not differentiated into true roots, stems and leaves. Algae range in size from the minutest types with diameters as less as 1 micron in certain planktons to the multicellular forms as large as in the seaweeds. Their forms can be colonial, filamentous, septate, branched, unbranched or even large multicellular types. These unicellular types of algae are the most basic types, from where through evolution the multicellular forms have arisen. There are several types of thallus as we see, and they can range from unicellular ones which can be motile or non-motile. They can form aggregates like palmaloids and dendroids. They can be colonial, which can again be motile or non-motile. They may be filamentous, which are either branched or unbranched. The branch filamentous types are also of different types like simple, heterotrichous as well as pseudoparenchymatous. Then be of other types like siphonaceous and parenchymatous. We will see each of them individually. First, let us see the unicellular types. These are seen in all groups of algae except Phaeophyceae or brown algae. They may be either amoeboid, flagelloid motile or non-motile cells. Now, whenever they are present, they have a rigid cell wall and this provides rigidity or shape to the cell. Sometimes they may also have a periplast and this allows change in the shape like rhizoidal or dendroid or amoeboid forms. First, we will see the unicellular amoeboid forms which are called as rhizopodial also. Now, they generally lack flagella and they are simple unicells. Examples include Chrysamoeba, Chlorella and Synechococcus. Then followed by the flagelloid motile ones. Now, these are also unicellular and they are the simplest forms containing flagella. Flagella may be 1, 2 or even multiples of 2. Usually they are 2 or multiples of 2. And they are present in Cryptophyceae, Chrysophyceae and Dinophyceae, but absent in Cyanophyceae, Phaeophyceae, Rhodophyceae and Basilaриophyceae. This nature of flagellation, their numbers, location, types, all these are important for classification of algae. In majority of the Chlorophyceae, the flagella are 2 or multiples of 2. They are equal in size, of whiplash type and attached anteriorly. The common examples include the Chlamydomonas. These unicellular bodies are either spherical, oblong or pear-shaped, sometimes can be elongated as well. Sometimes they are also possessing a capsular-like nature outside and then they are called as encapsuled type of flagellated forms. And a feature very common with these flagellated forms are the possession of eye spot or stigma. Next, we move on to the non-motile unicellular forms which are called as protococcoidal forms. These are non-flagellated but they represent a wide variety of shapes and sizes, even indulations or characteristic features of their cell walls and very obvious present in the diatoms Xanthophyceae, Cyanophyceae and Rhodophyceae. We find even elongated cells like Pinularia in case of Basilarophyta and we also find small single cells arranged together, they are called as microcystis. We have also triangular shapes of cells in case of diatoms. See, in case of desmids, we do find ribs, spines or wart-like structures on the cell walls and they are even more interesting in case of the diatoms and these porous nature of the siliceous walls of diatoms are even allowing some form of cytoplasmic extrusions through which they may even be motile at times, although they are non-motile. So, these covers the unicellular structures. Next, we are moving on to the aggregates. Now, they are of two types, palmaloid and dendroid. They are not colonies exactly, they show a collection of single cells to form this thallus, and they do not have any fixed number of cells into each of the aggregates. So, we will first go into the palmalloid habit. Now, if we say palmalloid habit, it basically means a permanent one, while we sometimes have a palmella stage, and these are seen generally in the Chlamydomonas. This is a temporary stage. So, what exactly happens in this palmella habit? Many single cells are all combined together into an aggregate, and this happens because of the mucilage that they produce binds them all together in one place. This gives rise to structures which are called as palmella depending on the famous genus Palmella. We have Tetraspora as an example. Then we move on to the other types of aggregates which are dendroid. The difference here is the mucus or the mucilage production is localized to only the lower cells, and thus you have the production of a dendroid-like structures very common in Prasinocladus. Then there are some minute rhizopodial forms as well. Next we are moving on to the colonial forms. Now again, like the unicellular ones, we can have motile colonies and non-motile colonies. Unlike the aggregates, in the colonial forms, there is always a definite shape to the colony, and they do have some definite numbers. Now, the shape may vary in different types. So, we will see some of these colonies in details. Now, first we will talk about the motile colonial forms. So, obviously, the cells which comprise the colony here should be themselves motile. So, very commonly that we see in case of Chlamydomonas or volvox, we will find them either giving a plate-like structure in gonium or a spherical structure in case of volvox. So, what happens is basically they flagellated cells generally cover up the peripheral part and they unitedly allow the colony to move. We can also find non-motile colonies, and obviously that means the cells constituting actually are non-motile. So, we can have examples like Synedesmus forming a colony of individual cells which gives a plate-like structure, and then we can have the Hydrodictyon which is giving more or less a net-like structures by forming a non-motile colony. Then we move on to the filamentous forms. These are again rather advanced forms from all the ones that we have just talked about. And here what happens? The structure is formed because the division of the single cell into many daughter cells takes place with septa between the cells, but a common lateral wall derived from the mother cell. So, if the cell division is transverse to the long axis of the thallus, elongation will be followed by a division and a filament will be the result. Filaments can be branched or unbranched. So, let us see the unbranched types. So, the unbranched ones are obviously simple, but they can also finally aggregate to give rise to a colony, as we see in the case of nostoc. We have simple filaments which are not aggregated in case of Spirogyra. There can be other forms like Eulothrix, wherein the simple filaments may have an attachment even. Moving on to the branched filaments, which are of three different types: simple branched, heterotrichous branched and the pseudoparenchymatous. So, the first one, the branched simple filament, here what happens, the basic filament grows, and even when there is a cell septa, the other cell starts growing as a branch. So, this is very common in Cladophora, and we have another one called as the Cytonema, which is the prokaryotic algae. So, here we do not see the usual true branching, instead there is a false branching, and how it happens is when a cell in the filament dies or breaks, the other end cell starts growing individually. So, that gives the appearance of a branching, which is a false branching. The heterotrichous forms here are now slightly more advanced. What happens is they have two different structures altogether. They have a basal prostrate creeping system and they do have an erect or upright system. In many forms, both are equally well present. In many other forms, maybe one of them is actually pronounced. Like if we see the examples here, like Frischtiela, they do have both these prostrate and the erect forms made well. But there are other structures like Draphandeleia where they are only seeing the upper part better while the prostrate system is not much developed. Then we move on to the other filamentous types which are pseudoparenchymatous, which means false parenchymatous. That means they give the appearance of parenchyma, but they are not actually parenchyma. So here what happens is they can be of both uniaxial types or multi-axial types. So this is the example of a uniaxial types where we can actually see each of the filaments separately, but they are all united into a typical central uniaxial structures. Likewise, there can be multi-axial structures as well. The fifth form is the siphonaceous form. So here again we have the production of siphons, and these can be as simple as a simple vesicle containing chloroplast and other structures like nuclei, but they can also have extensions like branches called as rhizoids. They can be even many finger-like projections or tube-like projections, and the examples include Vaucheria and Botrydium. The last of the types are the parenchymatous forms, and these generally are the largest types, more advanced types with a different variety of structure. They can be leaf-like foliose or tubular or even other highly developed structures. We have examples like the Punctaria, Porphyria, Entomorpha. All these represent the true foliose or even the tubular structures in the parenchymatous forms. So far, we saw the thallus organization in algae. Now let us move on to how algae reproduces. There are basic three modes of reproduction: vegetative, asexual and sexual. These are the three modes. First, we will see the vegetative reproduction. In this type, basically, the vegetative part of the thallus develops into a new individual. This does not involve any alternation of generation, neither any spore formation, and it is the most common method of reproduction in algae. They are again of several types. First, the cell division, which is also called as binary fission. So here this is the simplest mode, and what happens is the single cells, it happens mainly in the unicellular types, and these unicells, they grow or elongate, and then there is a septa or wall formed in between, and they give rise to the two daughter cells. These two daughter cells are then growing as single units. So we see such kinds of forms in Chlamydomonas, Synechoccus and diatoms. Then is fragmentation. So as the name suggests, a part of the thallus breaks off, and this part then grows into another organism. So here basically what happens, a part of the multicellular thallus breaks off, and then that is the fragment which can give rise to a new organism. So we can see here a filament, basically it can break off, and then these two individually will now be equally responsible to give rise to two different organisms. These are common in Spirogyra, Eulothrix, Oedogonium, etc. Now, how can these breaks occur? They can be the result of some accidents, there may be some mechanical injury or some shock, or it can be just barely by some separation discs. The third is the formation of hormogonia in the vegetative forms. Now, what are these hormogonia? So, again in the filamentous structures, what happens is there may be necridia or dead cells, or may be a presence of heterocyst which delimits the bodies. And now these units, very small ones, may just leave out of the actual filament. These are called as hormogonia, and then they can give rise to individual units. This often happens in the blue-green algae like Nostoc, Oscillatoria, Cylindrospermum, etc. Then there can be others like the formation of adventitious branches often seen in fucus. Then can be production of bulbils, which are tuber-like outgrowths, and they do contain storage foods, and when they are detached, they can also give rise to new plant body. This is seen in Chara. Then there can be some simpler forms like the amylum stars. What are these? These are star-shaped aggregations of starch, and they contain cells which are developed on the lower nodes of the Chara, as we can see here. There can be simple buddings, like as we see even in yeast, and these buds may give rise to some plants again. And finally, there are akinets. These are more or less similar to the bacterial endospores, but not so highly resistant. They tide over the unfavorable condition, and what their structures are like, they are more or less thickened and enlarged structures contain enough reserve material to tide over the unfavorable conditions. They will germinate once the conditions become favorable. So this was all the vegetative types of reproduction. The second in line is asexual reproduction. So what does this mean actually? They are obviously asexual in nature, that is, there is no sexual fusion happening here. Certain types of spores are produced which may be of several types. We are going to discuss some of them, and in this also there is no alternation of generation. So let us see some of these asexual spores. The first in line is zoospores. So these are actually motile spores and they can again be of various types. So because they are motile, they do possess flagella. If they possess two flagella, they are known as biflagellated, like we have examples in Chlamydomonas, two flagella, but this is a zoospore. And then we have the quadriflagellate, which means four flagella present in the zoospore, which is the example is Ulothrix. We have more or less other kinds like the multiflagellate zoospores in Udogonium. This is again a different variety. We not only have the multiflagellate, but we also have the multiflagellated and multinucleate forms, which are now called as synzoospores. An example includes Vaucheria. All these zoospores that I have been talking about are produced in zoosporangium, and they may be a single zoospore in a zoosporangium or maybe many. Now again, zoospores may be haploid or diploid depending on the nature of the plant body or whether it is gametophyte or sporophyte where it is developed. Now wherever it is present, the zoospores always have a chloroplast and an eye spot. Then we have the second variety in the asexual spores, which are called aplanospores. So unlike the zoospores, aplanospores are non-motile and they sometimes may be again of various forms depending on how exactly they look. So if they are identical to the parent cell, they are called as autospores. They can be having thickened walls with abundant food reserves, then they are called as hypnospores. Examples of autospores are in Chlorella and Synedesmus unicells, and examples of hypnospores we see in Pediastrum or Spheriella. Then there are tetraspores. Now these are slightly different. What happens here is the diploid plants of certain algae like Polysiphonia, they produce a special type of haploid aplanospores, and these are called as tetraspores. Tetraspores are present within the tetrasporangium. The diploid nucleus of the tetrasporangium divides meiotically and produces 4 haploid nuclei. These haploid nuclei gather little protoplasm around them and give rise to the 4 tetraspores. After liberation, these tetraspores germinate to form the male and the female gametes. Then we have the two simple forms, the exospores and the endospores. Both are types of asexual spores. In exospores, we will find that the protoplast basically pinches off at one of its end and releases the exospores in basipetal succession. An example includes Chemiosiphon. And in the case of endospores, whereas we will find the spores present within the mother cell, an example includes Dermocarpa. So that brings us to the last type of reproduction, that is the sexual reproduction. This is the most advanced form of reproduction, as we see not only in case of algae that we are talking here, but also in case of humans. But when we will see the sexual reproduction in case of algae, we will see they actually also are beginning from simple types of sexual fusions to the highly complicated ones. So whatever happens in case of sexual reproduction, there will be always two gametes. They will fuse to finally give rise to a zygote. And then there will be fertilization and then development of the new plant body. So again, depending on the type of the gametes, it can be of several types. So we can find autogamy. What happens here? The fusing gametes here are developed from the same mother cell. And examples include diatom Amphora normani, and here the same fusing gametes, two from the single mother, gives rise to the zygote. Then we move on to hologamy. Now here exactly they are not gametes, but they are two distinct vegetative cells of different strains, which means of the same type of organism but two different strains like plus and minus. When the vegetative cells fuse, they generally give rise to a zygote. and this is called as hologamy, and we see this in Chlamydomonas. Then there are the other two like the isogamy and anisogamy. Now what happens here, the two gametes which are fusing, in case of isogamy, they are morphologically and physiologically similar. So the fusion will give rise to a zygote, and these gametes are called as isogametes. They are usually flagellate, and examples include Chlamydomonas and Eulothrix. In case of anisogamy, we will find two different types. But what actually is anisogamy? Here, the uniting gametes are morphologically and physiologically different. Like the smaller and the more active one is called as the microgamete, which is the male one, and the larger and the less active one is called the macrogamete, which is the female one. Examples include Chlamydomonas brownie. Now, deviating from this type of anisogamy, there is another type of anisogamy called as physiological anisogamy. Here, they show morphological similarity, that is the cells more or less the gametes produced are similar in nature as we see their morphology, but physiologically they are different, and examples include Zygonema and Spirogyra. The last type, which is the most advanced one, is oogamy, and this is the one which shows more similarity with the human types of reproduction. So what happens here? Here we basically have a very small motile male gamete, which is called as either sperm or antherozoids, and there is a larger one, female gamete, which is called as egg or ovum. The male gametes are developed within antheridium and the female gametes are developed within the oogonium. Then these two will actually fuse to give rise to the zygote. These are occurring in Oedogonium, Vaucheria, Chara, Laminaria, Sargassum and any other higher forms of algae. So all this gives us a good idea that algae are basically very, very diverse, whether we talk about the thallus organization or reproduction. See, in case of thallus, we find simple minute unicells to as large as seaweeds. So there is a wide variety. And even in case of reproduction, we begin with as simple as binary fission as a single cell dividing into two daughter cells, a simple process, to as complex process of oogamy where two distinct gametes fuse and give rise to a zygote to develop a different body. So whenever there is this kind of fusion of different gametes, this will give rise to some distinct individual property obtained from both the gametes. And in the simpler forms of reproduction, there will not be any such observation of much of these recombinant events. So this finally brings us to an end to this talk on the thallus organization and reproduction as we see in case of algae.